So I'm starting from 10. Give 3 words to describe how you feel while performing. Give 1 word to describe how you feel after a performance. Okay, so 3 words to describe how you feel while performing. Um, let's see, just 3 words. I'd probably say definitely confident, because usually by the time you're performing, you're pretty confident in one, the music you're playing, and also your sound and how you sound. And I don't think I've ever taken a performance that I wasn't confident I could do well. Um, so confident, also tranquility or tranquil. Um, there's a certain amount of peace that happens when you're playing and you're especially confident about what you're playing, because you're just there to have fun, and you're very relaxed, you're peaceful, very tranquil, and because you're tranquil, I guess my 3rd word would probably be flow. Um, I guess I don't know if that's the best descriptor, um, but if you're not familiar, what flow is the create is kind of the um, I guess I want to say layman's term, but it's like I don't know. Flow is very much it's the state of creativity that you're engaging in when you're doing a creative art, or you're in the zone, as it were. Um, very so. If I were to describe how I feel, flow would be um, the third word. Um, yeah. And if you're not sure what flow is, just email me and let me know. I can describe it a little bit more thoroughly than I did here. Give 1 word to describe how you feel after performing. Probably spent, like just spent emotionally, like cognitive depletion, just spent, you know, and like you've been channeling all your emotions, and you're kind of uh, your cognitive real estate. You've been focusing on this one kind of activity for the past, I don't know, 3 to 45 minutes. um, so probably spent is the word I would use to describe after a performance. Um, Only a few times. I don't know if this is necessarily relevant, but there was one time I remember really well after performance. I was at the National Symphony competition in high school, and I played really well, and I was really, really pleased with my performance, like personally, because getting to that competition, they only accept 6 finalists, and I got selected, and I was really, really excited. And I knew I wasn't going to win because I saw the other kids, and they were way better than I was, and I'm okay admitting that. Like I understand my level of playing, and I'm good, but they were much better than I was. So I went out there and I was like, okay, I'm just playing for me. This is just for me. And I went out there and I killed it because I knew I wasn't going to win, like, which is like kind of a liberating feeling, but strange because it would have been funny if I did win because of the way I was playing. Um, uh, but after that performance, I got up and like I just was overcome like with emotion, and I like almost started crying. It was like so like I did such a good job, and I was really happy with it, and it was just it was just one of those moments. So but yeah, I forget what I said. What did I say? Okay, one underscore have that performance. Spent though. So like in that case, the reason I was so like emotional is because I had spent all my emotions in the competition, so I didn't like have any normal emotions to like balance out the ones I was just spending. So it's just this huge influx in I don't know, in emotional attenuation. Um, Describe your best moment in this art. Ah, that's hard to say. That's really hard to say because I've had a lot of really, really great moments. Um, Oh man, yeah, I know one. I know one. It was like it was like a very serious moment. So when I was in high school, my one of my really good friends, his brother and his mom were um, murdered in their house, and they were really big in the community, and it was this huge um, kind of shock to the community, and I was asked to play for some of the funeral, and and of course I did, and afterwards they they had like a reception, and my friend brought his guitar, um, and his mom always loved the Ave Maria. Um, Franz Biebel has this recording of the Ave Maria that's just or recording composition of the Franz Biebel Ave Maria that's just amazing, and so we ended up playing just a simplistic guitar and cello kind of duet on that's just standard Ave Maria, like Ave Maria, and the first verse, like his sister like joined in, and then like this room full of like 300 people just like started like singing. It was just it was an amazing moment. It was an amazing moment. It was really heavy, but it was like really genuine. It was really awesome. Um, there's also another moment. Have a lot of best moments. Pick whichever one you think is the coolest. Where I was in Germany and I was in this medieval church, completely alone, and I was on stage, and they have this huge echo chamber. It's in Schlussbach-Rosenberg, which is southern Germany, kind of near the Black Forest, and I got to play in this extremely. I don't know exactly when it was built, but something like the 1500s, and it was just amazing to be able to like connect with a space in that way. I'm trying to think what other the best moment. I don't know. There's also my first performance with the El Paso Symphony as a soloist was not the performance itself, but the second rehearsal, because they only give you two rehearsals. In the first rehearsal, I bombed. I was not killing it, and the second rehearsal, I did. I just murdered like all the parts I wasn't sure about, like just all gelled together, and and it's kind of hard to describe why that was my best moment in this art. Um, I guess I don't know if it was the best, but the most satisfying. Um, oh, but I could go on. There's so many good moments. But the one that comes to mind is the Smith's funeral. That one um, it was such a moment of quality. Worst moment in this art. Um, so with every instrument comes auditions, right? And auditions. So I actually have two stories, and again, pick whichever one because they're both pretty bad moments. Um, but I'd say I don't know. It was more embarrassing, not like the worst moment in this art. I've never like completely messed up to the point where I was like super embarrassed or whatever. But it usually comes from auditions. I've had two really bad auditions that I remember really well, and the first one that comes to mind is I was in high school and I was auditioning for All-State Orchestra, and I had been practicing for months, and I knew all the music, and I was really confident in what I was doing. But I got in there, and the stand like wouldn't stay up, and it like kept falling, and like so my music kept falling, and the judges are behind a screen, so they can't you know um, talk to you. But anyway, I was trying to fix this stand, and I was like trying to jam it in, and they thought I was so it was making this big racket with the noise with the stand, and afterwards I heard that they thought I was like angry about something or whatever, and they thought I was banging on the stand because I was like mad at something, and so I didn't make all states, even though I played a pretty decent audition. Um, I'm pretty sure I didn't make all states because they thought I was like mad at the audition process or something. It was really weird. Um, what was the other worst moment I was just about to? Oh, yes. So I had, before I went to the University of Virginia, I had been in Japan with the high school diplomas program, and I hadn't practiced cello in a month and a half, and the first week of classes you have to audition for the orchestra. My scholarship was contingent on the fact that I play in orchestra. So they mostly were having me audition as a formality, but I didn't know there was an audition that I had to be prepared for. So I got the music 4 days before I was supposed to play, but it's not like it was easy music. I had to still learn it. And I went in that audition and I bombed it. And there was no screen in front of the judges in this point. Um, it was incredibly embarrassing because I got like a talking to afterwards of like, hey, so what was that about? Because this is the first time because they had heard me on CDs and expected me to be like, you know, a really polished player, and they'd heard a lot of good things about me from my teachers and this and that, and I got in there and just completely bombed it, and it was probably that's probably the worst moment in my art was when I bombed my first college audition and had a scholarship already. And they let me in the orchestra still, but I was last chair. I was last chair because they were like, this isn't okay. And I got put on probation because they were like, if you don't shape up in the next semester, we're going to pull your funding. So that was probably the worst moment in that art. Who is / was your sport hero, and how did she inspire you? I love Lola Jones. Her name is Lauren Jones, but she's a track and field Olympian, and actually also uh, she was on the U.S. bobsledding team, but she's an Olympic hurdler, and I really love her story. She grew up really poor, and she learned how to run from her dad because like her dad's car would break down all the time, so they'd have to like run back home and jog back home, and so like a lot of her like running technique comes from her dad and kind of being in rough situations, and so she's someone that's really worked really hard to get where she is, and like she's doing it. And she also talks about like the precision it takes when you hurdle, and how much and there's a lot of parallels between that and classical music. When you're hurdling over something, it's a performance. You're performing, even if you're hurdling, throwing, playing soccer, playing lacrosse. Any sport is a performance, because you're very much in that same mindset of, okay, I've practiced this one thing over and over, whether it be a scale or a field goal, and then you're like, okay, now it's the time, so I need to be on point. And so Lolo rather, talks about how she, trained to hurdle, and how when she didn't get she had to have knee surgery at one point in her career, and it devastated her because she had put in all this practice and all this time into hurdling and that performance of hurdling, and it basically got kind of swept from under her. That's why she went into bobsledding for a little bit. But she inspires me because I grew up with meager beginnings as well. Maybe not to the extreme that she did, but to pay for my lessons, to pay for my school, I babysat my cello teacher I babysat my cello teacher's children. It'd be pretty funny if I babysat my cello teacher. But I babysat his children. I started my own like lawn mowing service to pay for lessons and pay for the transportation that I needed for lessons, and eventually I got a scholarship, and since then I've been on scholarship ever since. And yeah, I think her she in some ways had a lot of hardship that she went through, and I identify with that in a lot of different ways. Um, and I don't know, she just really inspires me because she, even when she gets kicked down, like when she needed knee surgery, she still got back up and she did a completely different sport. She did bobsledding. It's like she's a really really amazing human being, um, and I think she inspires me by just living in that energy of never give up, and like if you want it bad enough, then you can get it and just do it. Um, so yeah, who is slash was your artistic hero, and how does she inspire you? Um, oh, that's kind of hard because I have a lot of influential artists in my like side pocket, but yeah, I'd have to say Gil Shaham. He's actually a violinist, oddly enough, but he is. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, he has a cool backstory, not like Lolo, but he just has. Oh no, I don't want to say that. He's one of my favorite performers. I wouldn't say he's my artistic hero. Um, okay, yeah, maybe Matthew Bertner. He's a professor at the University of Virginia, and he is actually a composer. He plays saxophone, but he's more of a composer, and he's my hero because he lives music. He lives it. And his type of music, he does like eco acoustics. So he'll compose a song that needs melting snow as an instrument, or it needs like this huge tree installation, or he'll take um, climate data and map it over a standard staff. But really, he like very much lives his music, and because his music is not all of it, but some of his latest stuff is very much based on the environment. It's kind of cool to see him emulate his settings through his kind of medium. Um, and I mean, that alone is just really hard to do and get paid for it. It's really hard to do, and he's doing it. He's doing it, and he's just being completely genuine. And because of that, he is reaping the benefits. So I think I have a lot to glean from him and his influence. Um, but anyway, so this is going to be like 20 minutes long. Hopefully, we'll upload with no problem. Um, but thank you for letting me help you, and I hope this gets to you on time. Good luck, Cheta. Talk to you soon.